In Dune Awakening, you can lose everything in the blink of an eye and cost yourself tons of time because you done messed up and got ate by a sandworm or something to that effect. So let me save you a bunch of time and show you some of the mistakes you should not be making in Dune Awakening. The first big mistake is one of the biggest ones, and that's not getting eaten by the big sandworm, Shia Hulud. As you go across parts of the open sand or open desert, going between mountains, the sandworm crawls out of the ground, can essentially eat you. And not only is it bad, but it's really bad, because if you get eaten by Shia Hulud, you lose everything. And I mean every single thing in your inventory. Whereas normally if you would just die, you keep a lot of your main components and things like that, but no. Every single thing on you, if you get eaten, is completely gone. And let me tell you, it can take a long time earlier in the game to build up a lot of your in-game loot and create some of the more advanced tools as you go into the second and third area. So if you do happen to get eaten and lose all that stuff, it can set you back to basically zero, where you have to go farm out all your materials again and create all of your different crafting items again. Guess what? You're not going to have enough stuff to actually do, which means you're going to have to go farm it all again. So getting eaten by the worm, you're really going to struggle getting back on your feet. Don't let that happen. Once you get far enough in the game, you'll eventually unlock the still tent once you complete the 7th trial. And this is a big deal because this will actually shelter you from the heat of the day and mild sandstorms, meaning you don't have to worry as much about getting stuck in a sandstorm because A, you can drink from the tent to regain lost moisture, but also have a temporary shelter from sandstorms, meaning if you're venturing out in the map, you can throw your vehicle in a vehicle lookup tool and then enter your still tent, so that way you can be completely safe from any sandstorms and let them pass without having to worry about them taking all of your loot from them. Keep in mind, if you die by a sandstorm, you lose everything. Now, the second big mistake, and this is one I made for 15 hours in the early preview we were able to play, and that's focusing on the thing that hinders you the most early on in this game, and that is water retention. And guess what? When you don't have water, you can't do jack. I mean, you can't do anything. So there's a couple ways you can really get around that. As you begin to level up, or even at an earlier level, you should be introduced into some basic gear. Now, if you actually look in your fabricator, if you have it crafted already, I believe the game will have you craft some still suit items. And if you notice, when we look at this still suit, it actually has a catch pocket size. Now, what that is that means as you're running throughout the world, you can see that little bar on the left where you can actually click F and drink. This basically turns your sweat into water, that way you can drink it completely free. And again, these armor sets are cheap to craft at the very beginning, crafting not that many resources. And again, you can create these very cheap at the beginning by getting micro sandwich fabrics, which you can get at many cave or stash locations. All you have to do is find one of these caves and hover over it, and it should show you which materials it gives. You can go farm out a couple of those, build an early game still suit set, and have instant access to easily drinkable water early on. Within the first area of the game, you'll be able to just simply drink from plants, but eventually you'll need to find a leader John, and this will allow you to actually store water and carry water with you. This is absolutely vital for going anywhere farther than like 10 feet from your base. So you'll be able to craft one of these portable water containers. But now the question is, how do you fill up these water containers so you have water to walk around? Well, this is why I mentioned it early in this video, because you want to get this set up as quickly as possible with blood purifiers. And that means you can get 2 of them if possible, because trust me, early on, you're going to need them since water is literally required for everything. Basically, the way the blood purifier works is it turns blood into water, which you can then extract into your portable water device or straight up drink from this machine. You can then store additional water in something like a water cistern when you build it, so that way it's able to store a lot of your water that you're creating from your blood purifier, so you can continue to make more and more. Now, the question is, how do you get blood very easily? Well, first off, you want to create some small or medium blood sacks once you're able to. And at that point, you need to create either the base tool, for instance, the level 1 blood extractor, or the MK2 blood extractor once you unlock it. The way this works is once you kill an enemy, you essentially can walk up to them, extract their blood from them, and it will automatically deposit into your medium or small blood sacks. Now, you need to make sure you're carrying enough of these so that way you can have enough spots, so that way you can fill your blood purifiers both when you come back to base, just to overall get you more water faster. Now, one thing you can do is actually drink directly from the blood sack if you do happen to get thirsty. So feel free to do that if needed. If not, bring your blood sacks, deposit that into your blood purifier, turn that blood into water. Then you can fill your portable container to have water on the go, store your extra water here. And that will also be important to keep in mind, because other things that you need to make later on in the game, like iron ingots and steel ingots, will actually require a lot of water. So you need to have a bunch of this built up. You need to have as much of it as possible. Now, you can also fill your portable water containers very, very easily once you get to the second area by using a Dew Reaper. Now, once you're able to use a Dew Reaper and you go to an area past the first unlockable area, such as the eastern or western Vermilius Gap, you'll basically find plants that once they're full, you can essentially wave your Dew Reaper over them. It will extract the water from them and fill into your portable container. So you need to drink and fill up your maximum water meter on the left if there are extra plants, and then refill your portable container so you're both completely full on water and your container is completely full on water. Now, the next big thing is not getting all your materials mixed up because it can be confusing where you need to go to get stuff, but I can make it pretty simple for you. For instance, the white things that you create, so the things here in this whiter shade, basically just need salvaged metal to create them. Regular other things like plant fiber you'd pick off the ground, general materials like that are what's required for crafting things in white. Crafting things in blue actually require particle capacitors, or again, materials of that same color in blue. So you can see this requires a particle capacitor. Go over here to our vehicles. This requires advanced servox, and anything in blue, you can actually see this icon right here, shows you the blue icon or the same blue icon on the map for where exactly to get it. If we look for that little blue icon on the map, we can see right over here at the Imperial Testing Station number 197 or this Imperial Testing Station number 13, you can see you can get both those parts. So the color of what you're crafting essentially matches the parts that you need, which is shown on the map in the same color to show you where to get them easier. Again, the same works for things like the Blood Extractor 2. These are all orange or have the little cave symbol on them, which require things like EMF generators, as well as micro sandwich fabrics, which again, if you look on the map, you can find via these orange caves scattered across the map, which is where you can get those specific type of materials, which are abundant, especially in the first starter area. And then finally, we have things like the unique items that you can find schematics or blueprints for to build later. And these can require a mix of these different components, but they're purple because they specifically always require spice infused copper dust. Now, this is important because these unique items require this spice-infused copper dust because it's a rare material, and you can get those from specific places, like completing quests and story missions and other things later in the game. Other materials you get from using things like your cut array, whether that's salvaged metal or some sort of ore, you can get typically from this. Some materials you can find with your handheld resource scanner that will point out different materials across the map for you. And again, others that you use to fabricate will show the requirements and where you can actually get these, since they're color coordinated to the icons on the map. Keep in mind, one thing you can do is use your survey probe launcher and survey probes. Go up to a high enough area and actually launch this to be able to see the given area. So storms can come through and wipe off the entire map so you can't see anything. But if you get to a high enough point, use your survey probe launcher to launch a survey probe in the sky, wait just like 30 seconds. It will then open up the entire map for the section or the area that you're in, so you can see everything within that given area. Also, if you zoom in far enough to the map, you can also see different individual components like iron ore, salvage metal locations, granite stones, and even water and fuel cells. That way you can know if you're in a specific area, if you need water very quickly or something else, you can easily get them by finding the material you need. Now, another big mistake is your skill setup. Depending on what build you're using, you should set up your skills early in a particular way. So ideally early on, you should focus on pretty strong abilities. For instance, with the Sword Master, something like Knee Charge can actually stun the enemy, making melee enemies a non-factor because you can stagger them easier and finish them off very quickly. Ranged enemies early on in Dune Awakening are a problem, but melee enemies, in my opinion, are a real problem, and that's because they can run up on you very quickly while just destroying most of your stamina. That would make upgrades for our blade damage and our up-close blade abilities for Swordmaster very good early on. The Swordsmaster also specializes in extra stamina bonuses and extra heal kit recovery, but a bunch of the stamina passives and buffs that you get from this build help early on for climbing, fighting, and just a bunch of other things that stamina is required for. The Mentat is great early on, using things like the Sentinel, which is an automated turret you get, which can basically take out a lot of those enemies for you where you don't ever have to worry about it, as well as Poison Capsule, where you throw a poison capsule on the ground, basically poisoning enemies and dealing damage to everyone in that area. The Planetologist specifically is great early on for getting many more resources. Things like extra cut array yield, bonus yield from your cut array from deep analysis, extra dew gathering for more water early on is a huge plus if you play the Planetologist. Mountaineer, so you can mountain and climb things much easier while reducing the amount of stamina that you use. And Mechanics, you can fix your vehicle at much lower costs and keep your max durability loss at a minimum so you don't have to build more vehicle parts. This is the ultimate planet survival character and can be great early on. The Trooper can also spec out into multiple different range damage abilities and extra range damage passives with other things like the anti-gravity field and gravity field perks, so that way you can slow enemies and further easily protect yourself, and the Shigawire Claw ability where you can essentially shoot out a wire, grab a rock, and throw yourself a distance, making traveling and maneuverability much faster early on. And finally, the Jezerit character. Early on, you can invest in Bendu Sprint, which allows you to sprint very quickly in a direction, moving at like basically teleporting. Also using abilities like Compel, where you can pull enemies towards you, and spec into early things like Trauma Recovery, which gives you health regen limit and give you health regeneration rate, and Sun Tolerance for decreased sunstroke rate. All of the early abilities for these characters are all useful, but I highly recommend picking 2 primary abilities early on, since early on you can really only use 2 primary abilities, using those specking into different techniques that help your build, but also specking into a lot of passives that overall help the survivability of your character early, because early on, trust me, you're just trying to survive with all the different water and all the other things you have to worry about. It'll make your character progression move a lot easier, and keep in mind, you should just go ahead and do this however you want, because at any given point, you can respec your entire skill tree and reallocate points how you want to. So there's no real harm in testing things out to see how they work and really learning the class. Now, another big thing that I did early on in the preview was not being able to fully research my gear, and it really can put you in a bind. For instance, the starter area over here in Haga Basin South starts you off and you can get a bunch of different contracts, quests to level up, different areas to explore, and tons of different enemy outposts, so that way you can essentially get intel. Gathering this one intel point, for instance, from this area could give you like anywhere from 5 to 10 research points, and this is really important because when I moved to this secondary area, I didn't have all the research points I needed, and so I couldn't research a lot of the utilities and things that I needed to make, and a lot of these schematics stayed locked until I unlocked the intel in this harder further area. Now basically, one thing you need to understand is the way this works is once you clear some of these outposts, and you want to make sure you clear all of them as you go. Trust me, there's no need to rush to the end of the game. You need to make sure you're getting every single one of these that you can. You build up your intel and research points, and then by doing that, you can then come in here and research different things that you can build. Things like the Garment Fabricator, the Weapons Fabricator, the Pentashield, and a bunch of other different things that you need require you to actually research them to fully unlock them. And if you don't have some of these things unlocked, extra guns, armor, etc., that's going to make it that much harder for you and make it a real struggle to continue to survive and progress in Arrakis. So I highly recommend you take your time, explore these areas, build up on some of these materials, especially the intel outposts. Make sure you complete those to get your intel, because you're going to need it later. Now, one of the big tips I can give, make sure you save your Solaris, which is essentially like your in-game currency that you can use at vendors, because at vendors it becomes extremely useful early on in the game. For instance, early on when you start, you can drink from plants, making your water issue really a non-factor. But later on in the second area, you want to make sure you unlock the Dew Reaper. Now, the Dew Reaper is required to gather water from plants. You typically don't want to carry all of your currency on you, because if you get eaten by a sandworm and you have 30,000 currency you've saved up like I did, guess what? You lose it all and it is all gone forever. You want to make sure you're specifically saving it, so that way, basically if you need to craft something or need to find something important and you don't have the materials or something to craft it, you can simply come to one of these small little outposts like the anvil in the second area, or even anything in the first area. Visit one of the merchants here and use your currency to trade for things that you may struggle to build. For instance, if we needed a sandbike tread, we could buy one here instead of having to venture across the map worrying about sandstorms, worms, and going all the way across the map over here to this Imperial testing station. Now, the big thing here is being able to trade for tools early. Like, for instance, again, the Dew Reaper, the handheld resource scanner, or blood sacks, even the cut array or upgrade blood extractor. That way you're being able to be much more efficient early on when you're struggling for resources, water, etc. And instead of having to farm for like 10 hours until you can get to the point you can build one of these, don't struggle for 5 hours not getting any water. Come over here, spend 2,900 Solaris, buy this, and you'll have as much water as you could ever need. Make sure to use your currency, especially for tools early on, and I'm telling you, it will save you a world of headache.